Plastic evaluation is our core expertise at Gradical. We help medical technology companies choose the right plastic for their application with the technical suitability, regulatory compliance, and improved sustainability. Learn more under www.gradical.ch/plastic-evaluation. Our today's guest is Pat Kothe. He is an expert in sales and marketing of medical devices. He is the CEO of EM Device, a medical device startup based in Austin, Texas, helping doctors better treat abscesses. He had a stellar career in sales and marketing, and his passions are innovative startups and career development. He is the host of the Mastering Medical Device podcast, a personal favorite of mine. I had an interview there in 2023 you might check out. And here's our discussion. Hi, Pat, and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, Lucas, thanks so much for the invite. Looking forward to a great conversation.
You're an expert in sales and marketing of medical devices. How does one sell a medical device, and are there different sales strategies for different medical devices?
Well, I'd kind of like to flip that around and say, instead of how do you sell a medical device, how are medical devices bought? Because that's really, if you change your mindset to say, we're not selling, we're allowing people to buy your products, we're educating them and buying your products, that's really a good way to look at it. Because now you're in the service of the customer and you're not in the service of yourself. So I think the first main thing is to understand who the customers are and why your product would be important to them. That's the baseline on how you start in this exchange, providing technology to different people, is understand who they are, what their challenges are, how your product fits within their workflow, and then how you can serve them by providing your product.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's less of a car salesman. You need this car, but it's more like what problems do you have, and how can I serve best to solve them?
Yeah, and that's a universal thing throughout the world. I mean, people want to have technologies that help them. We all want to acquire those technologies that help us out. Whether whatever country you're in, we're all people. This is kind of what we do. And the other thing is, we don't like people to tell us something that's in their best interest, because you can spot that a mile away, that somebody is trying to do something for themselves and not for you. So if you put yourself in the buyer's shoes, well, we all are. We are consumers and a lot of different things, and you just think about those interactions and what's a good interaction and what's a bad interaction. The bad interaction is typically when it's about them and they're trying to push something on you. And a good interaction is when they're understanding your unique needs, and then they're introducing you to something that would be of benefit to them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. And do you think there are differences between different medical devices?
Not really. I mean, the way that you approach the customer is going to be the same whether you've got a CT scanner or you've got a needle or some gauze, because it's just getting into their frame of mind and understanding why it's important. Now, there's a whole bunch of other things that go into that sales process, and understanding not only who you're talking to, but who are the other influencers, who are the other people that are going to be involved in that decision-making process, and what is that process? Mm-hmm. So it starts with the person that's across the table from you, or the conversation that you're having, but it's greater depending on what the sales process looks like. So coordinating the sale is also part of the sales process, but it all starts from who you're talking to, what the benefits are to them.
Mhm. Okay, so I might imagine then that this is then quite different, not what device you are offering, but more like who are you talking to in the buying company. So if you have like physicians, or you have supply chain, or you have like the C-suite, you have certainly a different frame of mind that they have and that you have to get into. Is that actually the challenge?
It is, and we've got a multi-faceted, multi-head customer that we're dealing with when we're dealing with medical device. And every country, every hospital system is going to be different depending on where you are and who they are. Sometimes the individual, it used to be the individual physician had a lot of pull, and what they wanted they got. And in some instances, that's still the case, but becoming much more rare that a physician can make a purchasing decision. It's in general, we have to deal with multiple people in making that decision. The clinician is an important piece of that, but the support people that help to prepare that product or use that product, the purchasing people, the supply chain people, the not only at the hospital but at the group level, all of those people are important to the acquisition process. And you need to have a relationship at all of those different levels. And everyone's going to be a little bit different. Sometimes it's going to be more heavily weighted towards the supply chain people if you have a more generic type of product. Sometimes it could be weighted more towards the clinician if you have a more surgeon or physician preference item. But it all has to be coordinated effort, because we know that all of the people that are in the buying process need to have information, and it needs to boil down to what's important to them, how does it affect their function within the group, and how does it affect patient outcomes. All of these things are important, but they're all different depending on if you sit in a supply chain seat or you sit in the surgical suite, and you're treating patients.
Okay, okay. So it seems to me a very, very complex process in understanding all these roles, and I imagine that the salesperson is actually the guy coordinating all this, and then there are support roles, as I imagine that you can support the sales from your organization, from a medical device organization, and then there's the whole team of the medical device organization that you have to like communicate all this information, these needs, these sometimes even feelings from the customer and the multi-headed customer, as you told it. And how do you get this customer user view into your organization? Because I am working as an engineer, as a consultant for choosing the right plastic for the application of the medical device. And I mean, sometimes you talk to people, and you ask them, what are the requirements that you actually need for the plastic? And they're like, yeah, I do not know. How do we really get the requirements of the customers into our organization, and how do we make the sales be the eyes and the ears of the company actually?
Complex systems require complex solutions. And we're dealing with a complex system, and as I said, every customer is going to be different. Every company is going to be different. Some companies, you have large companies with huge amount of resources, and some companies you have small companies, and your salesperson is basically going to be the eyes and ears of the company.
Mhm.
But you have large organizations where marketing, R&D, senior management, sales management can all help in that process. So the first thing is understand who you are and what resources that you've got. That's one step. But the most important step is to understand from the customer's level, at all levels of the customer, what the needs are. Because if you just go to the surgeon and you say, what can we do? What is the product requirement for a plastic? And the surgeon will say, well, it has to do this. It has to be soft enough and to be compliant. It needs to be stiff enough in order, for me to push it. It needs to have good biocompatibility. And all of these things are great things from the surgeon standpoint. But then you also have to get to the supply chain people and say, okay, well, what are the requirements there? Well, we have to be able to warehouse it. It needs to be decent packaging. It needs to hit a certain price point. It needs to provide a certain value. We have some requirements for disposing of it, so it needs to have thought through that process. And then you go to the nursing staff or the support staff, and well, it needs to be easy to open. It needs to be easy to prepare. If you got a re-sterilization product, you got to go down to the SPD portion of the hospital, and you need to understand what re-sterilization looks like, what cleaning looks like. So gathering this information, whether it's one person doing it or whether it's a team of people within your company, the most important thing that you do is understand not only the user of the product, but the full breadth of the buying decision, and from cradle to grave of that device within a hospital, who touches it, who makes decisions, who's impacted by it. Because it's not only the person that's using it, but it's the person that's following up with it. It's the people in the C-suite who say, I've got an emphasis on patient safety, or we've got an emphasis on cutting revisits to the hospital. All of those things are important in the decision-making process, and they involve many different people. So however your company is set up, whether that's the individual salespeople, a salesperson needs to go out and have those contacts, or it's a team of people, mapping out the buying journey or the product journey of your device within a hospital system is critical in order for you to be able to employ a strategy of how to coordinate the sales process.
So it's about understanding the complex system that the customer organization has. So at that point,
and also your product, because you said it earlier, the difference between selling an MRI system and selling a syringe are different. So you have to understand how your product fits within that. It may touch some of the same people, but it may be different people. And the skew, how it skews with who makes the decision will also help you to know that the value and benefit of your product is greater in this area where somebody's making a decision, and it's less in this area. That's okay. Or there's a mismatch there, and we've got an issue that we need to solve to make sure that the value for the decision maker is also great.
Credical is the plastic expert in medical technology and supports you in the areas of sustainable plastics and material compliance. Our course, Sustainable Plastics and Medical Technology, will bring your development team up to date with the latest developments in sustainable plastics. In addition, we offer the course Regulatory Aspects of Plastic Selection at the CATS and the SKZ, which provides guidance through the maze of regulations when selecting materials. More under www.credical.ch. So we need to also balance that. And maybe it's great for the physician, but bad for nursing staff, and doesn't hold in the warehouses as long as they would imagine. And then it's like these factors have all to be considered in order to make it as smooth as possible, to remove friction of the process as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, the classic is, you've got a device that is marginally better clinically, marginally better for the ease of use of the product, and you've got a surgeon relationship, and the surgeon says, "Well, I want that product. It's better." Well, then you take it to value analysis and say, we understand that it's marginally better, it's marginally different for that, but the cost of that is significant.
Mm-hmm.
It's significantly different. So that's where kind of this, the friction ends up is what is, we throw this term around a lot in medical device, it's value. It doesn't matter what you think the value of your product is. It's what your customer believes the value is to them. And their value is going to be different than somebody else down the street. So that classic situation where it's marginally better is the price to that value or price to those benefits. Does it make sense or does it not make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the decisions that hospitals have to make and hospital systems have to make all day long. Is what is the value that I'm going to get in my system with my team, and how do I balance that out to make sure that we're delivering quality care?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's maybe also a point there. They're not doing that for a dollar here, a dollar there. That's more that's more of a dollar for my shareholders. It's like these healthcare providers usually do have very low margins, so they're like they do not earn a lot of money, so they have to look at what they're spending, and they cannot afford sometimes just to increase costs.
It's an interesting point because they can't afford to increase costs, but can they afford to have patients returning if a procedure isn't done as well as it could have been done with a different technology?
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes, it comes back to the value. The price of your product does not determine what the value of the product is. So the price, you can take the short-term view and say, well, this one, this device is less expensive than your device, so I'm going to use that. Well, did you realize that the re-op rate with our device is 2% different, and that 2% is going to translate into better patient satisfaction, into greater overall reimbursement depending on your healthcare system, and the ultimate cost of the system of that 2% re-ops could be completely take away any cost saving on a device. So it's your responsibility as a device company to make them aware. They'll make their own decision, but make them aware. And it's generally, the best practice to have strong clinical data to support any argument that you've got that makes them aware that, yes, we're going to be more expensive on the front end, but on the back end, it's going to be a significant difference. What's more important to you? And that's our jobs as medical device companies, is to make them aware so that they can make an informed decision.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting, because one of I have a German podcast and I did like 30 something episodes, and I just always ask them, and I will also ask you to give an advice at the end of the podcast to our listeners. You know what the most frequently said point is communication. So really communicate well along the supply chain, and make them aware what the benefits are, what you think the benefits are, and have your arguments ready for why you should use this device because it's really better and it's providing the value. And then they will figure it out for yourself, or for themselves. Or there's also the option that your device fails, which you do not want, but there's this option is certainly there. um I mean, talking of things that fail a lot are startups, and you're also involved with one. You want to share with us your story, how you got involved with that, and what the journey was, basically. What are you guys doing?
So my background, I think you went over my background, but I've had the privilege of being involved in launching over 50 medical devices throughout my career, and done the complex ones, the heart valves and angioplasty and things like that, the class 3 implantable devices. and also some of the simpler devices. And that's what we're doing right now. The company that I'm CEO of is called EM Device. And what we have is we have a device for treating abscesses. Now, an abscess is nothing more than an infection under the skin that fills with pus. And historically, the way that you've fixed that is you just take a scalpel, open it up, drain it, and then allow it to heal. So my partner is a emergency medicine physician, and he came up with an easier, better way to do this that makes it less painful for the patient, reduces the failure rate of the procedure by over 40%, makes it faster for the clinician to do, and easier patient care on the home end, and also eliminates patient revisits for some things that would need to be done under the old technique. So it's a simple device that's used in the emergency department. It's got a lot of nice benefits for it. As you mentioned, we all have challenges within startups, and one of the things about the medical field is things don't move fast. Clinicians are skeptical, which I'm so happy they are, because you should not move from one thing to another without good clinical evidence. And we've got clinical evidence, but even though we've got good clinical evidence, we launched a product in COVID. We launched an ER product into COVID. So you can imagine what patient or what clinician access was in launching, trying to launch into COVID. We're post-COVID now, so we've got access to different people, but it doesn't change the fact that clinicians want evidence, but they move slowly. And that's kind of, par for the course for any startup company. Is if you think that you're going to go in and you're going to move the market quickly, it ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen for you. It takes sustained effort. It takes sustained messaging in order to have people start to move in that direction. That's kind of where we're at as a company. Is we've got great clinical benefits, we've got great people that are using it, and we're building the momentum of bringing the product into marketplace. And that's kind of one of the messages to people that are out there selling products. If you think that that hockey stick is going to happen quickly and sales are going to skyrocket once you get there because you got the perfect product, no. No, it just doesn't. Very, very, very few products are on that trajectory.
Okay, good. So you have had a career in medical device, and I introduced you and just told them that you have a stellar career, but you might just go over a few of your favorite positions that you had. And another thing is that you're very interested in career development. That's also why you, or as I understood, why you have the Mastering Medical Device podcast, to help people grow in the medical device field. So you might just elaborate a little on your career and what do you think that medical device, a career medical device should look like, or how it can look like, and what your best career development advice would be. Do you enjoy the podcast? Then subscribe and rate it on your platform, and join the discussion on LinkedIn. Your feedback and comments help us improve the podcast and bring relevant topics to you. Let's form a better world with plastics.
In order to have a good medical device, you need a lot of different people, a lot of different skills. Some of us are geared towards research and development. Some of us are geared toward quality. Some of us are geared toward sales or marketing or finance. Everyone is important in building a company. There's not one predominant person or one predominant function that is more important than the other. If you don't have people who can talk about your product and introduce people, you don't have a good company. If you don't have the correct financing in place in order to pay for development and for sales of the product, you don't have a company. If you don't have quality, you don't have a company. So we're all important. Wherever you start, there's a pathway for you to make a good career. So we've got to kind of lay out, all the functions of the company are important. And then all of us have different skills. I started off, I came out of the sales side. I started off carrying a bag years ago and then moved up into sales management, ran the US sales force, moved over into marketing, and then ran marketing organizations, and then moved into CEO roles with different startups, and I've gone from the large company to the startup. From a career development standpoint, what I feel is that as close as you can get to the customer, the better your education is going to be, the more value you've got to a company. And whether that you can do that from different places. I did it from a sales standpoint, and I lived with the customer. I understood the customer, and I think that that's of great value to anyone. But if you're an R&D function, you also have the ability to go out and understand the customers. If you're in a quality function, you're going to be interfacing with people who may have a problem with a product, but you're going to be interfacing with them. Get as close to the customer as you can, and you will learn more about your business than being stuck in a lab or sitting inside a conference room where you've got meetings lined up all day long. Get in front of the customer. It will inform your view of the world differently. And it will get you out of the, what's in it for me to how do I help them? And that's, kind of the biggest thing that I think is important in learning your craft. The other thing is understanding how you fit, and you're not the center of the universe. Okay. As I said, I came up in sales, and typically, salespeople think they're the center of the universe and everyone else is kind of doing things for them. It's not the case. You have to understand why marketing does what they do. Why quality is important. There's actually somebody on the line that's building your product. And if they don't do it right, there's a patient issue that occurs, and then there's a reputation that you're going to live with. There's a long tail there for that. So that person that's manufacturing your device is critical as well. How do I understand that person and their role, and then how do I fit within that? I think it's critical for all of us to expand our knowledge, not only of how do I do my job the best, but how do I understand how I fit within a company? Because if you understand that, then as opportunities arise for you to take other roles within the company, you're better prepared to understand what other people are doing and how you can impact the grand result of your company, other than just I want to be the best salesperson or the best quality person. Because at that point, you move from being an individual contributor to somebody who's more broad across the company, and you'll have more reach there. So understanding how you fit will help you to have impact not only in your own functional area, but as the company as a whole.
Mm-hmm. I think, so quickly to summarize, try to get as close to I would say not to the customer, but to the problem that your company is solving as possible. So and really understanding the problem that your customer, your user has, and try to get as close to, as possible to that. Then understand your role in the company and where you can bring the most value, and then the rest will basically follow. A thing that I've seen in the past, that there is the understanding of career that you always have to move up the ladder. So you have to lead people, and there's a certain type of person that can lead people, but on the other hand, it's like also technical experts are needed. So you sometimes need your nerdy engineer that really digs down into the problem and that has maybe 20 years of experience, but in the 20 years of experience, he didn't move up the ladder. And then it's like the value he derives or takes home, or in other words, his salary may not increase as much as if you move up the ladder. And I think that is a little an issue for those like expert roles. And I have seen in companies that have been that they have a theoretical model of like the expert path and the leadership path, but that's completely a theory. It's like on paper, and then they never move through with it. And how do you imagine solving that problem adequately? Because I think compensation should be somewhat coupled to the value that you bring to the company.
We all have different needs, wants, desires. Some people want to be that technical expert, and that's where they derive their personal worth, their personal value. That's what is most important to them. Some people want to be more of a leader, of a broader area of the company. You need both. You need technical experts. You need generalists, and I'll kind of divide it out. And that's kind of the way that I look at it is you have the technical experts and the generalists. I'm more of a generalist. That's kind of what I'm most comfortable with. I came up through the sales and marketing side. I'm comfortable in those things, and I consider myself to be expert in those areas, but not the most expert in those areas. I was not going to make a career solely on being the best darn salesperson or best sales manager as possible, or the best marketing person. My view is I wanted to have a greater contribution to the company, and that's kind of what is important to me. And being a generalist and understanding at a high level, I'm never going to be the expert in quality or regulatory, but I've got a pretty good understanding of the issues and what's going on. But I lean on the experts. So there's a combination of people that you need within a company. The rub happens when you need an expert and you're a generalist, and I want to be a leader of the company, which requires some general knowledge of different things, but somebody has not taken the opportunity to broaden themselves out to say, I'm an expert. I am an expert in this particular aspect of research and development. That's what I'm expert in. And now a general management position comes open, and they don't know what happens in sales and marketing or quality or regulatory, but they're the best R&D person. In my view, they've not done enough to prepare themselves for advancement. And preparing themselves means I need to understand what happens in these other things, in these other functional areas. I need to have a working knowledge of it, because if I'm asked to step in to manage that, you need to. So if you're that absolute subject matter expert and you have not done that, you've kind of set yourself up for the path that you're on. Mm-hmm. And you've closed the doors for advancement into areas where you're managing other things. I'll give you my personal experience. Coming up through sales, moved over to marketing, so I understood those two functions, and that's kind of what I was living in. All of a sudden, they put clinical underneath me, so now I'm managing a clinical group. Never done it before. Never did my homework on it. Didn't understand what the issues were, and now I'm managing it. So I had the experience of managing something that I didn't have the clue, a clue about, and I wasn't good at it, and I wasn't prepared for it. And I told myself at that point, I don't want this to happen again because it wasn't good for the company and it wasn't comfortable for me. So those are the types of things that I think that we've got to have personal responsibility for. If your pathway is I'm going to be the subject matter expert, but I want to transition into leadership, prepare yourself along the way. You have to. Otherwise, number one, you won't get the opportunity to because people will see you only in one way.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, you won't be good at it
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know what you need to know.
Yeah, and sometimes the subject matter expert is best serving the company where he is, as doing his technical subject matter things, and sometimes it doesn't take. I mean, sometimes it takes it takes just a little expertise in that area to in order to manage people to do that, and then if you need more than that, you have your employees that have this expert knowledge. But I mean, you should have a clue what your guys are doing, because otherwise you just cannot lead them. Because
Yeah, but Lucas, what you said was the company needs this. The company needs that subject matter expert in that area, and that's fine. But the employee needs something too.
mm-hmm.
And if the employee has a view of the company's going to hold me in this spot and not allow me to grow, that employee's not going to be with that company for very long.
Exactly.
So there has to be, when you're sitting down and doing that product, that employee development plan every quarter or annually or whenever you do that, if you don't tell the person that you're reporting to what your career aspirations are, and you don't get granular with how do I bridge myself from where I am here to where I want to go, you haven't done a good job of advocating for yourself. You have to let people know this is the aspiration I've got, and find out from them, do you think I'm prepared for this?
Mm-hmm.
And then if not, great. How do I get there? What's my plan to do this? How are you going to help me? How am I going to help myself to get from where I am today to where I'm going? Both people need to understand that. And if you've got a manager who shuts you down and says, "No, I don't see that happening for you. You're this." Guess what? You're going to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's we're all free agents out there, and the company needs certain things, but employees need certain things too.
Yeah.
Both sides need to come to terms with what that is.
Yeah, you know what I love really about what you said in the beginning. Just focus on the value, focus on what you can do for others, but also on the other hand, not be completely selfless. Argue for yourself, and argue for yourself means, look, I'm providing this value. I know that I provide value, and here are the things that I'm doing good. I have this evidence that I'm doing good, and this is where I want things to go. And if you don't see it, I mean, then I can also move elsewhere. It's like in the past I had a little this issue. I was telling my boss, yeah, I mean, I'm ready to take more responsibility. I was actually very motivated to do leadership roles, and then I ended up doing my own thing. And you know why I came to this conclusion? That he didn't have like the tools to get me something, so he didn't have the arguments for his boss to give him something, because like the company was like that size that you have certain roles, and in order to get a leadership role, somebody has to move from that position. So if no chair is free, you don't get one. And you have two options. Number one, wait for a chair, then hopefully get the wind of it before it is like under the hood announced that, yeah, you're doing this now. So sometimes they just don't open the position, but they just say, it's this guy now. So make sure that you're in the minds of the people that are like doing these kinds of what do you call it in the US? Musical chairs.
Yeah.
The musical chair stuff. So make sure that you're in the minds of people who do that. And I was just not patient enough, I think. I then said, yeah,
yeah.
it's 3 years now, and I don't think it's gonna happen. So I'm just gonna go off and do my own thing, and then,
Yeah.
I mean, that's also an option.
It is. The number one thing that people can do to put themselves in position for a greater role, be good at what you do. Okay. If you're looking forward and not present, and you're in the bottom, middle 50% or bottom half of your company, you're never going to get that role. So you have to be at the top of your game. You have to be seen as somebody who has mastered what they're doing in order to have the opportunity to take on something different. So that's the number one thing. The number two thing is you have to let people know that once an opportunity is there, that you'd like to be able to take advantage of it. So you have aspirations for something greater than what you are. Now that is not a tricky thing, but it is a tricky thing, because we all have had situations where somebody is politicking in the company way too early and way too often. They're taking credit for things that they don't deserve credit for. They're talking about the next position. They're sucking up to the senior management of the company. We all see them. We see them. That is, they think that they may be, I'm advocating for myself here. I'm trying to make myself look good when the opposite is happening. The opposite is also not good. And the opposite being, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to do the best I can and they will see me. Well, sometimes you don't get seen. You have to have an appropriate level of self-promotion. And that's not the first person that I talked about, where you're constantly promoting yourself. You have to confidently let your management know, this is my contribution. This is kind of what I've done. These are the aspirations I've got, and ask them for help in how do I continue to develop in order to be prepared for the next thing. That is appropriate level of self promotion. And I said it's tricky and not tricky. Well, some people find it tricky, and those are the people that are doing it wrong. And the people that are real and have the ability to have frank conversations, honest conversations, those are the people who are going to be prepared for that next role.
Mm-hmm. There sometimes something comes to mind when you talk about that. I just had a conversation with a customer like last week, and we're about to finish a project which is important for the company, and I just told him, when you finish that thing, you have to declare victory. And that is like, yeah, you announce we finished the project. This was important. We did it on time. We did it on budget. And thanks to everybody involved, and shout out to the team. He's the project manager. You need to do this. And it's not about, yeah, look at me, how good I am. It's about see, this is the value I bring. I did it and I made it happen. And he's more of an introverted guy, and I told him, do that. It increases your stock, because people see what you have done. And then if you receive like criticism on other points, because you may refuse to do certain things, or stuff like that, because it's like transitioning into another role from project management to more of an expert role, and he's like now telling people, hey, I can't do this project because I'm now like more of an expert role. You need to have these arguments for what value you bring to the table, and I think that's very important.
Sometimes that's necessary,
Mm-hmm.
that you need to bring it out yourself. What good companies do, what good managers, what excellent managers will do? They will do that for you.
Yes.
They will highlight you. So if you've got a manager who sees that, they will highlight you and do that so that it doesn't sound like you're being self-promotional.
Mm-hmm.
They are taking the spotlight, and this is one of the issues we have with middle management. Okay, somebody did that. That's part of my group. That's my win. Okay, so I'm going to take credit for that, even though somebody else did it. I'm going to take credit for it. As a middle manager, it's horrible because it shows how petty you are. So your next role is going to be not ready, because people will see that too. What is a better way to do it is highlight the people that report to you and the successes that they have, and promote them. Not a promotion, but promote them in their achievements. Highlight their achievements. It will make that person better. It will be kind of a flywheel, because they know that you're going to do that. They're going to work harder to get to the next one, so that they're going to have that um, that positive reinforcement. But it'll also make the middle manager look good. So the middle manager, it's somebody, okay, this guy knows how to manage people. He's helping to promote his people within his group to make it a better working environment. So sometimes we have to self-advocate if we've got a boss who's not quite doing it for us. But in the better companies, that's the way it should work.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who's in middle management, please hear what I'm saying. Make sure that you're highlighting your people's achievements. It'll look good on you, and it will make your contributors contribute even more.
Yeah. And that brings me to another point. I've learned that very early. Like during my studies, I had a supervisor that was like god awful, and it turned out that my bachelor thesis took me like 2 years. So I mean, I continued studying, but it was like back and forth and back and forth, and it was just like it was horrible experience. And then I decided I'm just not gonna choose topics. I'm gonna choose bosses, people. I gonna choose who I'm working with, and secondary is what we do. But I will choose the people I work with very carefully. Worked very good for me, and I mean, I had the fortune to have a good boss. Sometimes they didn't have like the arguments, or just the. I mean, sometimes it's just also the position that the company is in. They're not they're not able or willing to give you a raise, or to give you a promotion, which is coupled to a raise, just because it's like COVID, and your turnover has just like broken into like 50%, and they're firing people. They're not in the position to give you a raise, or a promotion, and that's just unfortunate. That's like economic weather, I call it, and you can't do anything there.
Well, when you go back, Lucas, and you start talking about managing your career and choosing your bosses and choosing who you want to work with, it's a very important piece of managing your career. And the other thing is, am I going to wait it out, because things change? And typically when you're younger in your career, something bad happens, or you've got somebody that it's not quite who you want it to be. You'll make a rash decision and start moving on, and you may be jumping from the frying pan into the fire. So as you get a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of time on this earth, you realize that sometimes the better course may be to wait it out. So a lot of things come into play: where you're living, what opportunities you are, what your family situation is, what your financial situation is. All of these things are going to weigh into your career decisions. But in my experience, it doesn't matter who your manager is. It's what are you going to do about it? How are you going to manage through a difficult situation? How are you going to manage through a good situation? You have the agency. It's up to you to make adjustments in the environment that you live in how you're going to prepare, how you're going to perform, how you're going to manage expectations, how you're going to grow. There's always a way. There's always a way forward.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be on the time frame that's optimal for you, but understand your situation, understand what's possible and what's tolerable, and what is optimal, and then start to move towards that
Yeah.
based on the situation that you're in.
So it's about taking responsibility, and no company is perfect, and sometimes there are just like holes in the company that nobody's taking care of, and it's an obvious flaw, where responsibility is abandoned. There's value to be, because there's stuff you could do that people would probably value, because it's an obvious hole, it's an obvious pain point, and you could just take over that little thing and fix it, and then go to your boss and say, see that, nobody did that, I did that.
I had a situation where my children were in high school at the time, and I didn't like a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to teach. I'm gonna get back at that teacher by not preparing, by not doing my homework, by not doing good at a test. Okay, well, guess what? You're hurting yourself there
Yes.
by doing that. At that point in time, I had a manager that I didn't get along with at all. That it was same thing. I had a bad teacher, and what was I doing? I was pulling away. I was not doing the best I could in the job that I was in. I was doing the exact same thing that I told my kids not to do. Put your nose down, do it, prepare, do as well as you can in this situation. That taught me a lot when I realized that I was doing the exact same thing that I was telling my kids not to do. And at that point I said, I got to take my own responsibility. I've got to take my own medicine here. So sometimes, even though we know, we don't do.
Yeah.
So the emotions are valuable and dangerous things, and they can either propel us forward or get us into trouble.
Okay, so one small question: how long did it take you until you got it, that you're
It
doing the
was
same?
several months. It was several months.
Yeah.
It was because I was aggrieved. I was not happy. I was, things were happening to me that shouldn't have, but they were. So I didn't do a good job of managing that, and it took me a little bit of time because I was ticked.
Did your kid call you out on it?
No, they didn't know what was going on at work.
Okay.
Only I did.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So, and secondly, kids do not listen to you. They look at you and see what you do, and then they do that.
Well, kids don't listen to you, and employees don't listen to you. So I could say the same thing. I wasn't listening to good advice from other people or from myself. I knew it. So I don't want to be callous here by saying employees are kids, but in many ways we are. I'm an employee too. In many ways we are. We've got our own way of looking at it, and a manager or a parent or somebody else may have more breadth of understanding of a situation. And as an employee, we may only look at it from our standpoint and not the overall standpoint. So that's why occasionally I'll use that parent and employee as being similar, in that you don't have the full picture.
It's why why it's similar. You're leading your kids. It's exactly what you do, and maybe employees are just older, or I mean they're adults, but it's kind of has a lot of analogies. You can put your kid in front, and if it wins whatever sports competition or whatever, and say, hey, look, that's my kid, I'm the dad of the winner here. You're coming off as petty, and because you are. And then on the other hand, you can just like shake the kid's hand and give him something. Hey, you did good there. And it's also that you lead by example. If you do something, they will do the same. And that's the same thing with the employees. And you can hold your kids accountable. You can also hold your employees accountable, but they will not listen to you or not follow your lead if you're not following, if you're not leading by example. And I think I like the analogy. I had it once with another guy in another podcast. We also talked about that, and I think it being a parent teaches you how to lead people because you have to.
As long as you keep it, and sometimes it's a dangerous analogy. Yes, it is an analogy, but sometimes, don't come across like, I'm the parent, you're the kids. That's not the point. The point is looking at things from a more holistic standpoint, as opposed to your own paternalistic standpoint, your own, your own view. It's not a maturity thing. It's not a growth thing. It's just looking at it from a different standpoint.
And it also depends on how you're raising your kids, because I want to teach my kids to do stuff themselves, because it's not about that I do not want to do it, but I want to teach them skills for life. And if you have that attitude and that is parenting for you, I think that's okay to make that analogy. But on the other hand, it's like, you are a little kid, my employee. That is not going to work well. And it's my kids are very. My daughter is very strong, like verbally. She will not accept an argument if it's like I'm the parent and you're the kid. She will not accept that. If you have a logical explanation, if you do not brush your teeth are gonna have holes, and we have to go to the dentist, and then we have to screw them and do that stuff. Okay, I understand that. I have to brush my teeth because I told you so. You'll not accept that.
Well, again, the reason why I brought it up is I was behaving like a child in here at the same time where I was doing the other thing. So it's managing your career is about, as we said, it's about personal responsibility, and how you manage through good times and difficult times will show everyone in your organization who you are. And that will affect your career. So just think about it from that standpoint. Good times, bad times, who are you? How are you managing it? And how does that affect your reputation and your ability to move on to other roles within the company? Because there are always going to be good and bad times.
Okay. Is that your advice for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, the advice for our listeners is to listen. Listen and understand. Listen to your customers. Listen to what they are really saying. When you talked about communicating, I'll amend that and say, listen, because communication kind of implies that you're kind of going both ways, but listening to the other side and really internalizing that is so important, whether you're talking about developing a product or managing your career. It's the same thing when you're managing a career and what people want within their management team. You can see it, but unless you talk to people within your company and understand what they value and how you're viewed, you don't have a full picture. So that's why, this listening and understanding is important from product development, from marketing, from sales, but also in managing your career. It's not your perception that's uninformed. It's an informed perception. Have I done the work to understand where what my strengths and weaknesses are, where my growth opportunities are, how people are viewing me, what they want in the leadership positions of the company, and is there a gap, and how do I fill that gap? It's the Same thing, whether you're developing a product or managing your career, understanding from the other person's standpoint what is needed, and then how do you fill that gap?
Okay. Thank you very much. Do you have any last words?
Just keep learning. That's it. We're all on a learning journey, whether we're in our first position in the company or we're at the tail end of our careers. Continue to learn from different peoples of different ages, learn from different peoples of different disciplines. Never stop learning.
That's a good finishing. That's a good finishing one. I need to give you a shout out. Mastering Medical Device is a podcast of yours. You have had a lot of these topics that we talked about. I really can highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite podcasts. So please check out his podcast. I'll put the link in the description. And this was Pat Kothe from Mastering Medical Device. And until the next time. Still looking for more in regards to plastics and medical technology? Visit our website www.gradical.ch and inform yourself on the services of Gradical. You can also check out our market report on medical grade plastics on www.medicalgradeplastics.de. Or you attend a training regarding material compliance at CATS or at SCATZ. And of course, don't forget to rate and subscribe our podcast wherever you get your podcast. Let's form a better world with plastics.